So, Mark, you know, one of the hot topics, shall we say, at the moment, and certainly, you know, everyone's got their different views on it. But having fished the PDAA sections, you know, Castell Water and obviously here, fished them for you know a number of years now. I sort of, you know, my view is that the fishing has deteriorated sort of considerably over the last 3 years. Um, the specimen barbel fishing that once was, I think it's a shadow of itself. You know, I could pretty much sort of, I was pretty confident that every visit I would get a fish. You know,
Mm.
sometimes two, three. You know, get chucking the odd blank, but it was hard, but the fishing was good. You know, you'd have to put in the work, and you know, sometimes you'd go for a run of blanks, and then sometimes you'd have you know, two or three captures. But you know, and that's my view. Each to their own. What's your view? And can you relate to what it is now to what it used to be? It's, you know, I'd say it's prime.
It has changed, yeah. There's no, you can't deny that. I think predators have played a big part in that, particularly the numbers of otters now.
Yeah,
Like a lot of rivers, we've got otters. Caster backwater, the otters started to make a bit of an impact there. And there was less fish being caught in the backwater, more in the main river,
yeah,
where they got a little bit more room to escape. And I think they've adjusted their sort of lives to compensate. You know, we have lost fish. We know that to otters and you know the smaller fish to cormorants and things. It's going through a period of change.
yeah,
You know, as all places do. But they are still there. You know, particularly here, there's still some good catches here, and the next two sections down. It's become a little bit harder. The Nene is notoriously slow, low, and clear, as you know.
yeah,
It's not like some rivers, you know, where you've got constant flow and a bit of colour. It is a moody river. But there's not the numbers of fish, I don't believe. In 2012, 13, something like that, I used to keep a little log when I was bailiffing of what people had caught. You know, those that wanted to tell me. And there was a lot of 3, 4, 5 pound fish, which you're not seeing so many of now.
yeah,
So a lot of the recruitment and a lot of the stocking stuff isn't making it through. You know, it seems to be taking a much higher toll, which, you know, is things that need to be looked at,
yeah,
really. And we've just completed another log for the Environment Agency. I'm just waiting for one more book, and that can go back. It has changed, you know, and particularly at Castor now, you tend to get more on the main river, as you know.
yeah,
The current problem, unfortunately, is with the seals in the Peterborough area. Two of which are at Castor at the moment. One has been there since January. We're now in August. And another one has been there on and off. It came in May at spawning, and it's back again now. So they will have had a significant impact,
yeah,
as they have on other parts of the river. To date, the only barbel that has come out of Castor that I know of, or anybody else knows of, is one I caught about 3 weeks ago.
yeah,
And that was in an evening session, and it was a do or die thing. I thought it was not on the backwater, obviously. I went on the main river, and that's the only one we know of. But it proves they're still there, and we just hope that when the seals finally move on,
when they swim back to sea.
I don't think that's going to happen. I think it may have to be done through the relevant authorities. It would be nice if they did, but
Yeah,
they seem to be going more inland. They tend to be moving up on the high water inland than going out, you know. So it will have to be done through the relevant authorities,
yeah,
which I think they're working on. You know, I'm not involved. I don't get involved in anything. I'll keep one out of the way.
yeah,
But once they've gone, we've got to fish it, and it's going to mean putting a lot of time in again and finding out what's there. It's not just the barbel, there'll be the chub, the bream, the small stuff. Unless we fish it and find out and do the research
yeah,
to know what impact they've had. And you know, at the moment, particularly at Castor, a lot of people are sort of voting with their feet and staying away because of the seals. But we hope, you know, don't desert the club, don't desert the sections. once they've gone, we need people to fish it.
Yeah.
We need the info back to find out if there's anything there. You know, the fact I had that barbel about 3 weeks ago from Castor, there's one there.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
You know, hopefully it's still there today. But it's we need people to come back and fish it.
Yeah.
You know, and the only way is to find out is by people fishing it.
Yeah.
But it's the Nene in general. You know, all the sort of different areas, they all tend to be fishing a little bit different to what they were a few years ago, and I think that's the same with a lot of rivers. They go in cycles. Don't
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. One of the bits you touched upon, and is, behind this sort of annually, and with walking the river, we always know about the closure that the club brings in to allow the fish to spawn on the Castor backwater. And I know that's another one, isn't it? That people get really annoyed by that, take the signs out and complain. But then when you think about the sort of protecting the fishery longer term and helping it grow, have you seen the same spawning activity of previous years? Has that deteriorated year on year?
This year was, I don't want to feel like a man crying, but when you watch that for year after year after year, and it pretty much takes the same pattern. The fish migrate up and down the rivers, as anybody knows, during the course of the season, and we know that they start to come back from the catches, come back towards the backwater from sort of late January onwards, and then obviously the season ends in March. So, but going on catches that have been caught in different areas of the river, and then the times of the year when they get caught near the backwater, we know that the migration starts around about January.
Yeah.
So once the season finishes, the food jobs to sort out, and then you tend to get about April, if the water's clear enough. We have had like an algae for a few years, which makes it a little bit hard to see through, but you'll get into April and the fish will start to gather up on the gravels. There's three spawning gravels on Castor backwater, so it always used to take the same sort of pattern. Like April, you might see a little bit of gravel clearing, with fish and that's fantastic to see, and then you get more and more fish, and then obviously it's dependent on weather and water temperatures, which normally would be round about the third week in May, sometimes later. So it always followed the same pattern. Because of that, the later, with climate change and things like that, we were finding that the fish were spawning well into when the season started. So having watched the gravels, I mentioned to John Means, the head bailiff, I said, look, I think we really need to just shut off the gravels, give them a little bit of peace. Because when we'd opened 1 or 2 years before that, some people would catch at all costs. And then I had a chap standing on the gravels, casting the lure down the back end of the gravels, and they just wanted to get on with it, and because he's walked all over the gravels, and I said we need to close this off. So we did that for across 10-12 years, we probably. And it, like you say, people took the most people respected it and thanked us for doing it, and it's fish care. It's a big thing now, but there was always people that, you got 40 yards of river closed in miles, but everybody wants to fish that. And of course the nursery swim, as was the banker swim and whatever. But this year, it was soul destroying. The fish they started to gather up a bit. Didn't see that many barbel, but on April the 16th, I think it was, there was two clearing some silt off the gravels, which was great. There were two decent sized barbel. One or two others, I think I only see 5 in total, on the 2 main gravels. I didn't see anything on the 3rd gravel, but the chub was starting to build up. 1 or 2 nice chub. Got to round about the 3rd week in May, the seal decided to come up the backwater and stay there, and that just did me in. He went 3-4 times. When it got to the main time, with everything was right, everything was there, the water temperatures were right, and there was nothing there. There was nothing on the gravels, on any of the gravels. And when you've seen that 4 times on the trot, they've either been killed, some of them will have been killed, but the rest have obviously decided to vacate the backwater and disappear back into the main river. Heartbreaking. We've lost a year's spawning on the backwater. Hopefully they'll have spawned elsewhere. But
It's just that visual thing, isn't it? You see them, so you know, so
Yeah,
you see them like spawning.
I got some great footage of them spawning last year. Some lovely footage of barbel spawning that I did on my camera with the polarised lens.
Yeah,
Fantastic, but this year it's just nothing there, mate.
yeah,
And I haven't been to the backwater since. I said to John, I'm not going back until the seal's gone. I
yeah,
can't face it. All the work that's gone into that place over the years, not just me, lots of others, and to see that, and it's something we've got absolutely no control over, and
yeah,
it's absolutely destroying the ecology of the river, and it breaks my heart.
yeah,
I just can't face it, and as you know, I'm not one to mince my words at times, and I think it's the sight of the people who've gone down there to see them as a tourist attraction. Oh, it's lovely to see. Yeah, they're beautiful animals in the right environment.
yeah,
They're not in the right environment, and I don't think I'd be able to hold myself. So I said it's
yeah.
best that I just stay away, because you know
I
they
think,
need to be where they belong, and
yeah,
it's doing them no good in the river whatsoever. They're not going to procreate. They're not going to live a long life in the river.
yeah,
They need to be back in the sea, and hopefully the powers to be will come to the senses, and that will happen. They'll rescue them and put them back in the wash
yeah.
where they should be, and we can just get back.
It's one when you sort of mention about the Bible study books, all of the surveys on the rivers, and it's to learn and then to sort of make a sort of judgment and understand what's happening, and through the Bible log books we're sort of seeing, okay, growth rates, recording fish, catches, the conditions and so on, and then I guess for me you just make a decision based on this will be a good idea. And it's I think one of the big things that I've noticed is the bird life on the river. I remember sort of being at Castor, and there would be water birds like
Yeah,
everywhere,
yeah,
and then it's gradually decreased now. When you do see one, it's like, wow, I thought they'd all gone. I mean, you do see the kingfishers, they're going up and down, but pretty much everything else, apart from the odd swan, I don't really see much in the way of it. Water voles, all those sort of different things. It's only when you think back what it used to be like and what it's like now.
yeah. I mean, when we were kids down there always used to be waterfalls. They were abundant,
Yeah,
and then the mink moved in,
yeah,
and destroyed it and just decimated them. And in fact, I did see about a month ago the first water vole that I've seen at Castor for around about 40 years.
wow,
And that was a fantastic sign. But unfortunately, 30 seconds later, a seal popped up behind it. Not that I think it was going to eat it, but
yeah,
just happened to be in the same area. Certainly with the mallards and things like that, we don't seem to have the young uns. They don't seem to get through the egg stage.
yeah,
With the mink, when the otters started to be a bit more prevalent, the mink tended to disappear. So you're going from one apex predator to another, and it is a big, it's not just me and everybody in yourself. It's very, very visible, the lack of bird life there, and that is, we believe, simply down to the apex predators.
yeah,
It's, you go to other areas that don't, some of the wilder areas. Because I get around quite a bit roving for chub, and it's other areas where there's quite a bit of bird life.
yeah.
But
It's really noticeable. We've got a woodpecker going off in the background. I hope you can hear that.
yeah,
But it's one of those things when you don't hear that. I know, sort of sitting here into the evening, you're going to hear the owls. You're going to see the birds on the river. Again, not so many now. But it's only when it's gone and it's there is I guess a different sort of silence that
yeah,
you're not hearing those things, and it sort of sticks out. I mean, what are we going to go, crocodiles next, or
Yeah.
sharks or something? So
Well, you couldn't write what we've. I mean, we've got now Chinese mitten crabs. They've even had one of those at Castor. That's come
wow.
quite a way up the Nene. The bottom end of the Nene round the Whipsy Dog and Doublet end is just alive for them.
Yeah,
They're an invasive species. Luckily, we haven't got any single crayfish that we know of. The
Yeah.
bottom end, I know they're further up the Nene. Your line's getting a bit of a wiggle on.
it must be a bream mark.
Probably knowing your record. Yeah. So. Yeah, it certainly has changed a bit in that way.
Yeah,
Yeah.
It's a hard one to take, isn't it? I think for you putting so much time in, for the club, seeing how much time and effort is invested, and all of that time and effort gone into it, and for us that fish it, and not it's not even that, is there? I mean, there's people that walk it, and I
Yeah.
remember I've sort of gone along there and spoke to photographers and sort of said to them, if you stay here, the kingfishers like coming up and stopping over there, and there's other wildlife, and they must notice the difference, and they're I I always sort of find when we're out fishing, you've only got to sit somewhere for an hour and you see so
Yeah,
much
yeah,
more.
yeah,
You can't just turn up and sort of like expect to see it all, happening in front of you. But things start to come out the reeds, come out the river. You sort of see snakes, waterfowl. You
yeah,
see all of
yeah,
those things. It's not that easy to catch as a one-off. But a seal's quite a quite big things. You can't
yeah,
necessarily miss
yeah.
them.
No,
So
you do know they sort of, you can see them coming from a long way off
yeah,
normally.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
It's it, I guess it's a sensitive subject, isn't it? And you've been such a huge part of the transformation of the river. With sort of another subject, probably sensitive one. What about the pollution, Mark? Have you noticed much pollution?
Oh, there's some, you know, we've had a couple of pollution incidents
Yeah.
which were man-made from chemicals from an industrial estate. Although the second one, they've never been able to pinpoint the exact location
Was
of
that
it.
the
But
one last
yeah,
year?
that was the one last year. I
Yeah.
mean, there was a lot of fish lost further down in towards Peterborough. About 100,000 fish, they estimate. I think I was told the Environment Agent took away about 4 tons of fish,
Wow.
dead. They've never found the actual source of that location, although it leads pretty much back to where the first one came from. Regards to the sewage and things like that, they say that it's okay. I mean, you know what these stories are like. You'll get contradictions. People say it's it's not my sort of area.
Yeah.
So you have to rely on what information you've given. But we in the few years up until the last couple of years in the close season, we had like a brown algae in the river. It went like a gravy colour.
Yeah.
And that was also in the close season, and it used to be a little bit of it for the start of the season. Then what's that? Is that from phosphates from the farmers are putting on the fields, or I think there's a multitude of things from that side of things that need looking at.
Yeah. I guess one of the things that with we talked about technology in fishing. We've talked about introducing the seals into the river, and the otters, and I think one of the things that sort of comes to mind is that when there's the desire to use technology to gather information and research and understand impacts, everyone's there, aren't they? But as soon as it's going to sort of show something a bit controversial, like is the river more polluted now than it used to be, is something that there isn't that. It's like sort of like we won't mention it. We'll turn our back on it. You're not allowed to talk about it.
No.
That seems to be something that's quite an obvious one. It suits us when when we want to see the sort of positives, but we don't use it to sort of really
No.
truthfully get underneath what's really going on. And then if we look at certain other rivers, by the time you realise it, it's then too late.
Yeah.
That it's not just a little bit of damage. Like with the pollution incident, thousands, tons of fish. I mean, that's like generations of fish, isn't it, that have just been wiped out.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
I think like the Thames and things like that are suffering bad with sewage pollution, aren't they? And
yeah,
again with the chicken farms and that in the
yeah,
Water Valley, and that's having an impact. And there seem to have been quite a lot of things washed or swept under the carpet, I should say.
yeah,
And I just hope that sooner or later that all gets sorted.
yeah,
Because we're living in what we're supposed to be an environmentally more aware society now, and to have that sort of thing happen
yeah,
nowadays shouldn't be happening.
yeah. Great.
With so much emphasis on the ecology and the environment and blah blah.
It's like you said about that last pollution incident. Nobody's been held accountable for
No,
it. It's like sort of accountability. It's the damn. You can't sort of say, I didn't mean it. The damage that's been caused is awful.
Yeah, it is. I mean, I didn't go and look at that one. The first one we had a few years before that, I went to have a look, and there was an overwhelming smell of insecticide, and it turned out that's what it was. From somebody that went to see the other one, they said there was a bit of a sort of a polished smell.
Okay.
But again, it was never. The Environment Agency traced as far back as they could. It was roughly in the same area. It came down the same sort of source, but they couldn't pinpoint the exact location.
Yeah.
And as far as I know, that's the case. It's just been, nobody's been held accountable. The damage has been done. We've been left to pick the pieces up.
Yeah. Such a sort of shame to see. Is it's like, I think that's what the reflection on what the river was like to what it's like nowadays. I think I can see it quite clearly. I'm not on it as as regularly as you, but it's a little bit disheartening to see, I guess, and it just seems to be that we could do a lot more. Everyone could do a lot more, but there just isn't always the desire for certain things. But hey ho, it is what it is.
Yeah.
So Mark, with all of your years of bailiffing, you must have seen, you must have come across some scenarios, some situations. What's the funniest thing you've come across?
From anglers, I think it took my breath away a little bit. Was two lads were coming in one Sunday to Caster on a warm afternoon with just a rod, and the lack of fishing gear always sets the alarms going. You think you got no landing net, you got no nookie mat, so you're thinking. Anyway, when I sort of went to speak to them, and I said, part of the thing of PDAA is you must carry your rod license with you at all times. So I asked them if they'd got their rod license with them, and the reply I got was, "You don't need a rod license on a Sunday." And that sort of took me breath. I'm thinking, I ain't got an answer for that because I ain't heard that one before, and it just. Anyway, needless to say, they didn't stay.
Yeah.
I think pushing wide, and then obviously the summer months when you walk in the riverbank. They say hide the sausage is very popular in the summer months, I think. In the long grass.
Yeah.
When you walk in different parts of the river and some bits are in the middle of nowhere, it's surprising what you find.
Yeah. I can imagine.
Yeah.
Certainly when we see all the swimming and bathers and all sorts going on, that's quite visible. But the other stuff that's in the long grass, it's
and the lows. I think when you find somebody that's been taking fish, is it low, or a dead fish in the margins, somebody's probably particularly a barbel that's not been recovered properly. Possibly, that could be the cause of death. But I think the lowest point now is with the seals. I don't think it can go lower than that. To see something that's a lot of people have put a lot of time and effort into building up and maintaining, and to have it taken away by something that's completely out of your control, it's heartbreaking to watch. It's heartbreaking to watch for everybody. But we've got to rebuild. So it'll come good in the end.
It's like you say, we're gonna have to sort of get out there and go through those blanks, put the time and effort and see what's there. Sort of get an understanding of it, and it'll be some tough times. It's sort of like, I guess, where people have to stand up.
I think we need help from everybody, and need people to be honest with what they're catching, and not keep it to themselves. So much. You always get your secret squirrels. But we need that information. We want to know if there's any, particularly on the stretches where the seal is, where what the barbel's situation's like. As last season there were some decent ones come out in December. I had a 13-12 followed by a 14-14. Cracking fish. But we need to know if they're still there. We want people to fish it when the seals are gone. We want. I've got to be honest. It's okay keeping everything to yourself, but that doesn't help anybody.
No. I think that's it's like you say, it's giving that information, isn't it? So you haven't got
even if you just share it with a bailiff, with one bailiff, you know, and in strict secrecy. It helps the club.
Yeah.
We've got to know what's there, and we can't rebuild unless we know. And that's the basis of what we've got to rebuild on. You know, there will have to be stockings of all fish, but we need to know. We need to know. And anybody that's thinking, oh, you know, they've got seals, I'm not going to fish, I'm not going to buy a book. It's, you're all helping if you do. You know, the club can't survive if you don't buy the books, and without the club there'll be no fishing because they won't be able to buy the fishing rights.
Yeah.
So everybody sort of got to help and do the bit. And
it's one of those, isn't it? We've enjoyed the good times.
Yeah,
now we're going to have to sort of go through some of the you know, I wouldn't even say they're bad times. We just don't know, do we?
No, you see all these, you know, things go in cycles, don't they? You know, a lot of rivers have gone through cycles, and we're tending to go through. And different parts, you know, of the Nene fishing, fantastic. You know, it's just that the lower end particularly is affected the seals at the moment. The fishing is it's hard.
Yeah.
At times, it's hard at times, you know. But unless we fish it, we're not going to know.
Yeah. Yeah, agree.
You can't suddenly, you know, everybody said when there'll be no fish left, there'll be no fish. What the seals have done in the short space of time outstrips what anything the otters have done.
Yeah, and it's I remember having a sort of family of otters go through the swim and catching them about 30 minutes later. So you know, I'm sure.
I mean, we've all done that. You know, I think there's a lot of. I'm not saying the otters are good, but they're not. You know, they're not all the bad that everybody. They're not the Black Death. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You can. I mean, we've all caught just after they've been through and things like that. You know, but there's some fantastic fish on the Nene, and let's hope they're still there and they've learned to sort of escape the otters. The seals and keep out the way. You know, and once they're gone, they'll drop the guard and come out again. What's left? You know, we have lost them. You can't deny that. But it's a rebuild. But there's still some cracking fishing on the Nene, you know. So don't think that there's nothing. There is. You know, I had a barbel the other week. Hopefully.
Yeah.
It took a bit of time, but you've got it's not going to be any easy fishing from barbel wise. I don't think on the lower ends. You know.
Yeah.
But
It's
we'll
like
see.
I say, in time, hopefully we'll see things change and put in the effort to see and understand where the river's at, what conditions it's in. Sort of hopefully in years to come, see those spawning gravels.
That'll be good. Yeah. I mean, next year, hopefully the seals will be gone by then, and we'll see a bit more what comes up onto the gravels.
Yeah.
It's always a good indicator. You know, you can see some of your best fish. We had a couple of big bream spawnings up the backwater in recent years. They don't go on the gravel; they tend to be in the margins and that, you know. So, and I've got some video of some very, you know, quite a lot of bream.
Yeah.
So it'd be good to see them back. And find out, you know, hopefully they've just took themselves out of the way and managed to evade the seal.
Yeah.
But we'll wait and see.
I guess sort of thinking about it, you know, and just knowing through some other clubs and you know, when you want to sort of, I guess, change things, maybe do things slightly different. You know, you have to do the studies, you have to sort of understand, you know, you can't just start jumping in the river and making changes to the flow and so on, and you know what animals are present, and you know, you sort of think the consequence of introduction of certain things into the river, would you say it's been done in like an irresponsible way? Because you know, as anglers, we have to go through and make sure, you know, that we've got the all of the certification, we've done the studies, we've understood where somebody's done something, and it's like sort of, okay, as a consequence of them doing something, then we've got to try and work out the damage it's done or the impact that it's had.
Yeah, it's. I think in both of these occasions with the otters and the seals, they've both been introduced. The otters, again, like everywhere else in the country, they've been introduced very, very quietly.
Yeah.
Particularly at Castor, there was a artificial halt made out of it. It just looked like a pile of logs.
Okay.
And I walked by it day after day after day and thought it was just a pile of logs. And then when we had the river enhancement work done, and that particular part of the river, they dug a little fish refuge, so that was removed, and then it was found there was an artificial halt within it. But even the people that did the plans and that didn't mention it. So, but you could see,
Yeah.
you know, it had never ever been lived in. You could tell it was never been lived in. So when that was right, within 5 yards of the spawning gravels. Now that's irresponsible.
Yeah.
To put an otter holt, which is a known spawning gravel, that's irresponsible. And then you've got with the seals were rescue seals that were released by a rescue centre in Norfolk into the River Nene at Sutton Bridge on Hope, well not the Hope, they say that they will go out on the tide, out into the wash with the other seal colonies, but unfortunately at the moment there's 5 in Peterborough. Now they know from the data and the tag, that they're all tagged, that some of those have been in Peterborough within 24 hours of being released.
Wow.
So again, it's a man-made situation that didn't need to happen, and I hope that I think the people responsible now have come to the conclusion, yes, it's wrong, they shouldn't be here now. We've had seals up and down the Nene for years.
Yeah.
You know, they tend to come in and go, but these are going inland. They haven't got the inbuilt system to take themselves out, you know,
Yeah.
because they're rescue seals from other areas, and they just don't seem to be able to find their way out. So again, it's 2 man-made situations, but like you say, we pay a lot of money to fish. You know, your rod license, your gear, your blah blah, it all mounts up.
Yeah.
So why shouldn't we have a say in what happens?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like you say, we pay our rod licenses, we pay our memberships. You know, we you know, just it's not even just that, is it? We look. I'd say we, in general, most anglers look after the environment. You know, we see rubbish. A few weeks ago, I remember picking up a barbecue, 3 bottles, various bits of rubbish, and taking it. You know, it's not my rubbish. It's, you know,
Yeah.
well, I'll just say it's another fisherman's rubbish. But you know, you sort of think that's all like the things that generally get missed, isn't it? We just looked at as fishermen, but
Yeah.
looking after, you know, I've reported pollution, sort of diesel spills into the river, all those sorts of things. You know, that's not known.
No, there's a lot of good. The angling clubs do a lot of good on the river, you know, and PDAA do. You know, they're a very responsible, well-run club. I've been for donkey's years. And,
Yeah.
You know, they know the river better than a lot of people.
Yeah.
So you know, we should have a bit more of a say. The anglers should have a bit more of a say, I think, in some of the things that happen on the rivers. You know, with consultation as to, I mean, the otter release. I think if that would have been made general
Yeah.
knowledge, there would have been a lot of opposition at the time.
Yeah.
You know.
It's just that research, isn't it? It's like sort of understanding the
Yeah.
impact. You know, you're
Yeah.
sort of like, well, let's stick a load of sewage in a river, and then let's, you know, see what happens, as opposed to, okay, if we did this, what would be the impact? It seems to be done sort of in hindsight, like, oh, we've done it now.
We'll worry about it later.
Yeah,
And you wouldn't think that would happen, as we said before. In this day and age, you wouldn't think they'd be able to get away with it.
Yeah.